I did a video recently where we looked at how many variable message signs have been installed around the Fremantle Traffic Bridge to let drivers know it will close on the 1st of February. When I started looking at the variable message signs, the first one I noticed was at the Dingo Flour Mill. Then I spotted another one, and then I went looking in the obvious places to see if I could find some more, and I did. I thought I'd found them all. Then I drove to Fremantle and found another one on Stirling Highway further north near Victoria Station. And I spotted another one south of the old Fremantle prison when doing a test ride of a roundabout. I reckon if I'd had a look along Leach Highway and Canning Highway to the east, I'd find some more. In other words, the information blast radius looks something like this. Main roads have quite rightly encircled the bridge with information for drivers, and it looks like it is multi-layered. That is good. It should ensure that when the bridge does close, they'll get very few complaints from irate drivers saying things like that they weren't told in advance. The comms people at main roads can then respond with messages like, "Are you blind?" or "Stop watching TikTok on your phone and start paying attention to what's going on outside your windscreen." Now let's contrast that with the paucity of information that has been provided to cyclists within the much smaller circle. You'd think that if Main Roads is willing to spend thousands of dollars per week hiring variable message signs and scattering them across the metro area from Mosman Park to Melville, they'd be willing to install a couple of signs for cyclists in a much smaller informational blast radius. But if you thought that, you'd be wrong. It's pretty obvious that Main Roads or the Alliance contractors know full well that quite a few people cross the railway tracks at North Fremantle Station and take the back streets to Tideman Road on a bike. After all, there used to be a shared path on the southern side of Tideman Road before the bridge project took over the land it went through, demolished the path and fenced off the block. On top of that, there used to be a detour map at the top of Pearce Street and Johnson Street. And there was directional signage at the intersection of Pearce Street and Tideman Road. At one stage, there was also a map on the southern side of Tideman Road on the fence explaining where the detour went. Main Roads can't claim ignorance of this cycling route or the fact that signage was initially put in place and then later removed. Anyway, an obvious place to install some informational signage is in the open space to the north of where Pearce Street ends in a cul-de-sac. If it was up to me, I'd install an extra VMS there along with a big information display, which would preferably be at least 50% map. How big would I make that sign? Well, it doesn't need to be as large as this informational sign near the Fremantle Fishing Harbour, but something the size of a large real estate sign would be a good start. If real estate agents can get hundreds of advertising signs printed and installed every month, it shouldn't be too hard for Main Roads to do the same. At one point, there were also plenty of maps scattered around the detour route. Some were cable tied to signposts, but most were installed on a section of temporary fencing. This isn't a complete inventory, but it gives you an idea of how many maps were originally put up. This is the situation today. In some places, the temporary fencing is still in place, but the maps are missing. In others, the fencing and the maps have been removed. It's interesting to juxtapose the amount of effort that Main Roads is putting into installing signage for drivers with the amount of effort that they're putting into neglecting or destroying signage aimed at cyclists and pedestrians. Apart from the missing maps, a lot of the directional detour signage has gone missing over the last few months. I don't know if this is because the traffic management plan was updated and someone approved the removal of detour signage, which would be pretty odd, or if no one is undertaking daily inspections of the signage, so they've got no idea what's still in place and what's missing. It's impossible to check some of it by driving past in a ute. The only way to thoroughly check some of the signage is to walk or cycle the detour route. And Alliance staff are banned from using bikes on this project for some unspecified OH&S reasons. Maybe their OH&S team did a risk assessment and found that some of at the detour contains so many defects it's unsafe for anyone to ride a bicycle on it. That'd be ironic. I guess it would take someone at least an hour to walk the detour every day, so they're probably just not bothering to do it at all. Whether they're filling out the daily inspection reports is anyone's guess. But you'd think that so long as the detour is in place, the detour signage should also remain in place. What would I do to fix this? First, I'd insist on daily inspections either on foot or on bicycle by the traffic managers, and I'd extend the Main Roads policy on taking video on every signage drive-through to include taking video on every single ride-through. If I can stick a video camera on my bike, so can the traffic managers. Second, I'd install a VMS at the end of Pier Street and look for other suitable locations along the main cycling corridors. There might not be any, but at least I'd have a look. Third, I'd get some proper signage made up using real estate promotion signs as a template. I'd install one next to the new VMS at the end of Pier Street, and I'd install the rest where the maps used to be. Fourth, I'd then jump on a bike and test the signage for clarity and visibility. Fifth, I'd ask some mystery shoppers to go for a ride and test the signage again. Sixth, I would then audit the traffic managers every month to ensure that they are doing daily checks, documenting them properly, and fixing any issues that arise from vandalism, car crashes, or storm damage. None of this is difficult or expensive. It just requires someone at main roads to make some decisions and get things happening.